Okay, so this first set of videos where I'm thinking about growth mindset and how to kind of get people embodying a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset in their everyday lives. I have seen this moment that we're in right at the moment during this Covid19 outbreak as being particularly significant and a wasted opportunity if I didn't use it. To kind of show people how growth mindset works, because we are living through a time when I've never seen so much growth mindset going on around me. If you think of the world as being a global company, and all the different departments within that company are kind of the different countries, we are really working together and learning from each other. As you know, different countries are taking on this virus at different points. We can learn from each other and get their feedback as to what's working and what's not working, learn from any mistakes that they think may be made in those different countries. We're talking to each other and we are all on this massive learning curve. Even the experts don't know how this is going to play out, and they are watching and learning all of the time. And the growth mindset is about that kind of creation of resilience, if you like, to help us through those vulnerable moments and recognise that actually it's okay for it all to be a bit messy and to struggle a bit, because that's actually what learning is all about. Now, obviously, there are high stakes in this kind of learning at the moment, but that is something that is difficult to cope with, but it's forcing us to find ways of coping, and actually that is forcing a lot of the growth mindset that we are seeing at the moment. So we do need to talk to each other, and growth mindset is all about change and being okay with change. Things obviously change for us to be in this situation in the first place, and we are, if you think about being on a learning curve, we are, really on the peak of that learning curve at the moment, and we will get there and we will get through these things, but we have to just learn to be okay with that struggle at the moment, which is hard, and lots of people are finding different ways through that. For me, I have particularly used mindset skills, because obviously this is something I'm really interested in and really passionate about. And I'm using those skills to help me to get through this and think this is a learning situation and it is messy and we're going to make mistakes along the way. We are going to have to support each other and work as a team. And we are wanting to achieve a goal, which is basically to stop the spread, for people to stop dying. And we're only going to be able to do that if we work together. If you are in a fixed mindset, you are less kind of willing to accept sort of criticism or feedback from other people. You want to be seen as the top dog, so you don't want people to see that you're putting in effort or making mistakes, because that might mean that you're not naturally clever. Kind of, if you've only got a certain amount of intelligence, then you've got a lot to protect. And therefore you don't want to be seen to be making those areas and taking advice from people, because or putting in effort, because that just shows that you're not naturally gifted. Obviously at the moment, if we're in this global organisation that was fixed mindset, you might get people that didn't want to share information or might lie about things or cheat to keep themselves on top, and obviously that is not a place that we want to be. Because we're not going to get through this if some people are trying to kind of do better than other people, because ultimately we are one organisation, so what each of us does is going to affect the other. So going back to the analogy of the company, if different departments were kind of working against each other, that's not going to achieve the overall end goal of the global company. Okay, so I'm just going to refer to some of my notes here to make sure that I'm not missing out any of the important points that I wanted to cover. Okay, so in aiming to beat coronavirus, we are learning something that we don't yet know. So a virus in normal circumstances would be difficult to cope with, but this is one that we don't know a lot about. So even the experts are learning. They're looking at lots of statistics and graphs to get their information. So that's kind of where a lot of the feedback is coming from at the moment. Inevitably, when we're learning something new, mistakes are going to be made, and we must accept those mistakes, but we must learn from them. And that is one of the crux points of the growth mindset, is that yes, mistakes are okay to make, but unless you reflect on them afterwards and think, well, how could I have done that better, then you're not actually going to be learning anything new that's going to help you to progress. And that's exactly the same in this situation. There's certainly no room for fixed mindset thinking, because it will only stifle our ability to beat this thing and come out blooming on the other side. And I think we can come out blooming on the other side, but I think we also, again, need to reflect on what positives have come out of the place where we've been, because I think there are going to be a huge amount of positives, people that have been learning to cope and deal with things in different ways. Different organisations are running in different ways because of this idea of social distancing. They've had to diversify quite a lot. So there are companies that manufacture completely different things to what they're manufacturing now, because there is this need for PPE equipment that companies have realised that they can actually help support the provision of, but it's not actually what they do normally. So they've had to adjust to those ways. I am reminded about a quote by somebody called Dave Hollis, who I've seen quoted quite a fair bit on the internet and social media recently. And he said that in the rush to return to normal, consider which parts of normal are worth rushing back to. And I think that is a quote that has really got to the nation. If we've seen that, it really does make you think, yeah, actually, we are in a very particular place right now, which is giving us some time to kind of consider and reflect what bits of life are actually really important. And they're the bits that we're really trying to hang on to at the moment. And there are other things that have just gone by the wayside. So growth mindset attitudes are about having that resolve to make change happen, and seeing that change as possible. So we're not there yet, but if we put in the growth mindset skills, then we can get there, but it's going to take a lot of effort from all of us. It's not about being seen as clever and being top dog. It is about being okay to be vulnerable and be taking the risks that need to be taken at the moment, in order to make that progress and get there. So we've got to learn to take on challenges, accept mistakes and failures, but reflect on them. Listen to feedback rather than see it as a personal attack, which is something that happens within the fixed mindset. Persevere through difficulties and setbacks. There are going to be huge difficulties and setbacks, and we're living that at the moment. We've got to work to find strategies and solutions, and that will really sort of get to our creativity and get us thinking about ways that we could achieve things that we hadn't really thought about before, in order to achieve what we want to do. We've got to be learning to feel okay with being vulnerable, and to take risks in the name of progress. And whilst that's not a comfortable place for a lot of people, I think that's what growth mindset is all about. It's about trying to live your life just with the small little steps along the way of creating that resilience to feel okay when things are not going 100%, that kind of optimism, if you like. And I think you could very simplistically boil down the growth mindset principles to having a basic optimism that things will get better. And that is a massive strength of it. But unless you live growth mindset principles and notice those moments when you've been a bit more fixed, and that goes for big organisations as much as individuals, and as countries, because if we were all being totally fixed right now, I don't think we would be getting through this, and we are getting through this. There are little bits of progress that can be pinpointed, and I'm hearing that on the Downing Street kind of roundup of the day each day, and looking at the news and the bits and pieces that are going on in the news, where they're really trying not just to inform us about what is happening out there that's pretty grim. And obviously they have a duty to be able, or to have to do that. And part of that is because they're trying to get us to stay home, but they've got to balance that with the positivity that's going on and the resilience of our nation that is happening at the moment, which is just incredible to my mind. And that's why I felt so inspired to create this set of videos, because it really helps you to see growth mindset in practice, and we can beat this together.